I knew something was off when Darren came home without his badge. That lanyard practically lived on his neck. Half the time he'd forget to take it off at dinner, and our daughter would tease him, call it his wedding ring to capitalism. But Friday night, it wasn't there. He didn't mention it. Just dropped his bag, kissed my cheek, and went to water the fern like nothing had changed. That fern's been dead for weeks. He said, "Greg's daughter's starting Monday. I'm supposed to show her the ropes." Now, Darren isn't a dramatic guy. The man files his own receipts for fun. But something in the way he said that, flat, like he was narrating his own replacement, made me pause. 11 years, he's been the backbone of that client portfolio, Solvantix Defense. He built that relationship from the ground up, survived 4 reorgs and 2 acquisition attempts. Greg used to joke that Darren knew more about the clients than the sales team did. Now suddenly, he's training a fresh out of college marketing major who once listed manifesting as a skill on her LinkedIn. He said Greg told him, "She's got the right energy." Right. Like energy substitutes for federal clearance and a decade of trust. I didn't push that night. Just made lasagna, watched him zone out to an old WY2 documentary, and pretended everything wasn't sliding sideways. But I knew. This wasn't mentorship. It was a soft exit dressed up in fake smiles and corporate language. That week, the invites slowed. Darren used to get copied on everything. Now it was just observe only or not at all. I saw the way he'd read his email in the mornings. Calm face, but his knuckles went white around the coffee mug. He didn't complain. That's the thing with people like Darren. They don't whine, they notice, and when they notice, they don't make noise, they take notes. One night, he pulled out an old binder from the garage. "Client onboarding docs," he said. Dusty as hell. He flipped through it with surgical focus, highlighting here, sticky note there. At one point, he paused on a page, stared at it for a good minute, then slid it into a manila folder and tucked it into his work bag without a word. That's when I realized he wasn't just hurt. He was preparing. Oh, and quick thing before we go deeper. If you're into stories where quiet people become the storm, hit that subscribe button and tap like. It seriously helps more than you think. Most folks watch and forget, but it's the little clicks that keep stories like this alive. All right, back to Darren. By Thursday, the signs were everywhere. Talia, Greg's daughter, was now leading client calls. Darren wasn't even on the calendar. One meeting invite literally read, "Optional, Voss attendance if needed." Optional, like he was a folding chair. And Darren, he kept it classy, answered questions, smiled at Talia, even offered her his seat in the conference room. But that smile. I've been married to the man 18 years. That smile meant, you're walking into a battlefield with glitter and vibes, kid. The last straw came Friday at 4:36 p.m. Greg called Darren in, alone. Said something about new directions, told him to take next week to recharge. No paperwork, no termination. Just a gentle corporate shove off a cliff. Darren came home early, pulled out the manila folder from his bag, and calmly forwarded one email. Just one. I peeked over his shoulder. It was a scanned copy of an NDA, Solvantix, dated 2017. Subject line, NDA clearance-tied contractual provision. He didn't say a word that night, just poured a bourbon, sat on the porch, and watched the sunset like he was waiting for gravity to do its thing. But inside that silence, he was already halfway down the road they thought they could block. They didn't even have the decency to do it behind closed doors. Greg flagged Darren down near the break room, coffee cup in hand like they were about to chit-chat about fantasy football. "Got a minute?" he said, already steering him toward the corner office. Darren gave me a look across the bullpen, half amused, half bracing for a head-on collision. I nodded, didn't say a word. He walked in. The door didn't shut all the way. Classic Greg. I watched from my desk as he leaned back in his leather chair like some aging quarterback narrating the last good play of his life. "Talia's coming in full time," he said, loud enough for half the floor to catch it. "She'll be shadowing you, learning the ropes." Shadowing. Right. Like Darren was some wise old forest monk and she was gonna absorb federal contract law by osmosis between lattes and lip gloss. Darren kept his posture polite, didn't flinch. But I could see the storm roll in behind his eyes. He asked the right questions, like always. What role will she be assuming long-term? Is this temporary mentorship or Greg cut him off with that smug little sibling grin he saves for when he knows he's screwing someone over. Oh, nothing's changing yet. Just help her settle in. She's got the right energy. And there it was. Energy. That catch-all buzzword used when someone has zero credentials but all the nepotism fairy dust. Talia had never handled a single high-risk account. Her security clearance? Pending. Her experience with DoD compliance frameworks? Non-existent. She once called a CUI briefing a bit heavy on the acronyms. Darren nodded once. Just once. Then walked out like Greg had complimented his tie instead of gutting 11 years of legacy. He didn't even look my way. Just beelined back to his desk and opened the CRM system like the conversation hadn't happened. But I saw it. The file he pulled up wasn't a client record. It was that NDA again. He read every line like it owed him money. Talia strolled in Monday morning like she was auditioning for a LinkedIn ad. High heels, ring light glow, blazer still creased from the box. Her first move? Take Darren's seat in the main meeting room. I was close enough to hear her ask, "Do we have, like, a cheat sheet for those compliance flags or whatever?" Compliance flags. Like the entire department wasn't built to prevent multi-million-dollar lawsuits and federal contract breaches. Darren didn't correct her. He just handed her a binder, the big one, labeled Solvantix Protocol, and said, "Start here." She flipped through 3 pages, made a face like it smelled funny, then asked, "Do we have to follow all this?" Darren looked at her, then at Greg, who was watching from across the floor like a proud dad at a spelling bee, and simply said, "Yes." That whole week felt like watching someone drive a Tesla into a lake with a smile. Greg kept parading her into meetings she didn't understand. She mispronounced acronyms, called key client contacts by the wrong titles, and at one point told Solvantix's procurement lead that we like to keep things chill and flexible on our end. Chill and flexible. To a military defense contractor. Every night, Darren came home later, not because he was overworking, but because he needed the walk to calm down. He stopped bringing his work laptop upstairs. Kept it in the garage now, next to the binder. I'd catch him just standing there, staring at the folder like it was some kind of escape hatch. When I asked how the week was going, he'd smile and say, "They're setting her up to fail. They just don't realize who else they're sinking." He wasn't angry, not visibly. That's the thing. Darren's rage doesn't come in punches. It comes in silence and subtraction. He starts pulling himself out piece by piece until the only thing left is the part you forgot you needed. By Friday, Talia had already CC'd legal on 3 client comms to clarify deliverables, and Greg sent an all-staff email calling Darren a trusted pillar during this exciting transition. Not leader. Not owner of client trust. Just a damn pillar. Decorative and stationary. That night, Darren took down the framed photo from his office, the one of him and the Solvantix team at the missile range tour. No ceremony. Just tucked it into his bag with the NDA and poured himself a drink that burned going down. I asked him what he was thinking. He said, "Funny how you can spend a decade building something, and all it takes is a dad with a daughter and no sense of consequence to start a fire." And the worst part? He wasn't even mad at her. Just disappointed in the system that handed her a loaded weapon and called it potential. The CRM lockout hit before Darren even finished his first sip of coffee. He tapped in his credentials like muscle memory, same as every morning, and the screen flashed back red. Access denied. Contact administrator. No warning. No call. Just a silent guillotine drop from whatever fresh hell Greg was cooking up over the weekend. He stared at the screen for a few seconds, then calmly closed the laptop and sat there, sipping like it was just another Monday and not the start of his erasure. By 8:12 a.m., the inbox lit up. Company-wide memo from Greg, subject line, Client Communication Protocol Update. The kind of bland corporate drivel you know is hiding a knife behind the curtain. Darren opened it. Just one sentence mattered. Effective immediately, all client matters regarding strategic accounts will be routed through Talia Mallory. No mention of Darren. No thank you. No transition notes. Just a cheerful note about streamlining communications. As if you can streamline relationships you've spent 11 years earning clearance for. He didn't speak, just rolled his chair back, stood up slow, and walked into the hallway like a man looking for gravity. Not rage, not despair, just calculation. already underway. Talia breezed in 30 minutes later, wearing a blazer she'd never earned and a grin like she just got promoted for learning how to email. She plopped into Darren's old meeting chair, logged into a fresh account Greg had clearly set up for her, and started clicking like client trust was just a settings tab. Darren nodded at her, polite as ever, and walked past without a word. He didn't even bother knocking on Greg's door, just stepped in. Greg looked up with that same, "I'm doing you a favor" smile he must have practiced in the mirror. "Hey, Darren, just wanted to give you some breathing room. You've earned a breather, you know? Take the week. Reset. Take the week. Like being airlifted off a burning ship is a vacation." Darren asked no questions, didn't argue, just nodded, said thanks. Walked out of the office slower than usual, like every footstep was being recorded. At his desk, he pulled out his old onboarding binder, yes, the physical one, and opened it with surgical precision. Page after page, methodical, until he landed on what he was looking for. It was from the year Solvantix signed their contract. A scanned memo signed by Darren, legal and Solvantix's compliance officer. A clause buried deep in onboarding. All client interactions with Solvantix defense systems are subject to named individual clearance continuity. Termination or reassignment of the cleared party without mutual consent shall constitute breach of contract under Clause 2C. In plain English, remove Darren, lose Solvantix. He scanned it with his phone, forwarded it to his personal email. That was it. No speech, no slamming doors. He zipped the binder shut, cleared his desk with the care of a museum archivist, and walked straight out of the building with his coat still hanging on the back of his chair. At home, he didn't sit on the couch. He didn't turn on the TV. He opened his garage, pulled the workbench light down, and laid out every document he'd ever saved from that account. Handwritten notes, policy updates, printouts from conference calls no one else bothered to record. It looked less like sabotage and more like someone preparing a will. Quiet, focused, deliberate. I watched from the doorway, holding 2 mugs of coffee. He took one and finally spoke. "You know what kills me? They think I'm a folder they can file away. But that NDA isn't just paper. It's weight. It's history. It's proof that someone once trusted me with something they don't trust this company to manage alone." Then he laughed. Not a joyful laugh. The kind you hear when someone realizes they've been walking around with a live grenade and the pin just hit the floor. Tuesday morning, he didn't shave, didn't rush, sat on the porch in his robe and waited. Not for Greg, not for HR, for the phone call that was already coming. The one Greg never anticipated, because men like Greg only think in titles and policy decks. Darren was thinking in relationships and federal compliance, and that's a game Greg had no business playing. Talia strutted into the office Tuesday like a cat who caught a pigeon in the copier. She'd booked her intro call with Solvantix for 8:30 a.m. Full glam, blazer too tight, not a damn clue what she was walking into. I watched her from my desk as she clicked the Teams link, humming like this was just another influencer collab and not the linchpin of a $245 million defense contract. She smiled at the empty screen, waited, refreshed. Still nothing. She started nervously adjusting her hair in the reflection. At 8:43, she said out loud to no one, "They must be having tech issues." By 8:50, she emailed their executive coordinator a calendar nudge, just making sure we're still on smiley face, to a DoD procurement officer. No reply. At 9:10, she tried calling the office line, straight to voicemail. By 9:24, she got bold and forwarded a meeting summary from a draft she'd found in Darren's archives, one she didn't understand. She cut half the technical terms, reworded the timelines, and slapped her name on the bottom. Sent it straight to Solvantix's legal and operations heads. By 9:47, her expression had changed. That tight, frozen smile people get when they realize the room's a little too quiet. And maybe it's not an echo they're hearing, but distance. Then came 10:02. Darren's phone rang, his personal line. He looked at the number. Didn't even blink. Just stepped outside, into the hallway, no theatrics. Closed the door behind him. I watched through the glass as he paced once, twice. Then he stopped, nodded once, and said the single word that would light the fuse. Correct. I heard it. So did the intern by the printer. So did Greg, who'd just walked out of the kitchen holding a protein shake and still laughing about some leadership podcast he'd been quoting all week. Darren walked back in and grabbed his coat. I caught his eye. "They called?" I asked. He nodded. "General counsel." "And?" "They asked if I'd been removed." I swallowed. "And?" He buttoned his jacket, calm as a glacier. "Told them yes." "And?" He didn't look back as he walked to the elevator, just said, "Then the contract's terminated, tied to my clearance." The elevator dinged. Silence followed him down the hallway like smoke. Greg didn't even notice at first, too busy showing Talia how to add GIFs to Slack messages. But the silence after Darren left wasn't normal. Not the peaceful kind. It was that electric stillness right before a transformer blows. By 11 a.m., the first ripples started hitting the inbox. A request for confirmation from Solvantix Legal. A follow-up marked urgent. Subject: Section 2, C Reassignment Protocol Breach. Seaside Compliance Legal CEO, Greg finally noticed. Walked over to Talia's desk like it was a casual check-in, but his neck had already gone blotchy. She whispered something, eyes wide, holding her phone like it was about to bite her. 12 minutes later, the CEO's assistant came flying down the hall asking if anyone had eyes on Darren. Nobody did. By lunch, panic had bloomed into full blossom. The kind of bloom you only get when someone's realizing they handed a lit match to a toddler in a fireworks store. And Darren, he was home. Still in his coat, standing in the garage, rereading the NDA like it was a poem he'd written years ago and forgotten how good it was. He didn't gloat. Didn't post a thing. No LinkedIn snark, no texts to coworkers. Just stood there with his hands in his pockets. Quiet as ever. Because when the dominoes start falling, the one who tipped the first tile never needs to shout. They say corporate deaths don't happen in explosions. They unravel in silence, thread by thread, until the whole damn thing falls apart under its own arrogance. By 7:46 a.m., Wednesday, Legal had the termination letter from Solvantix in their inbox. It wasn't loud. No threats, no emotion. Just a sterile, precise document ending the $245 million contract, like canceling a gym membership. Per Section 2(c) of the compliance agreement, the removal of the named signatory constitutes grounds for immediate termination. No further services will be accepted under the existing terms. 1 paragraph. 5 sentences. And the death knell of Greg Mallory's career. The email went to Greg, the CEO, Legal, and a half dozen people who didn't even know what Solvantix was until that morning. Within minutes, the floor turned cold. Phones stopped ringing. Conversations dried up mid-sentence. Talia came in late with a green juice and her tiny little dog in a handbag like she was auditioning for a reality show. She took one look around and froze, finally registering that the storm wasn't coming. It was already here. Greg tried to save face, of course. That man could spin a nuclear meltdown into a team-building opportunity. He stood up in the center of the floor and clapped his hands like a kindergarten teacher. "All right, folks, nothing's on fire, just a miscommunication we're clearing up. Nobody panic." And then Legal showed up. 4 suits, fast-moving, stone-faced, clutching folders with the kind of grim posture that says somebody just found the claws. They walked right past Greg without acknowledging him and straight into the executive suite. Greg followed, still grinning, but that smile cracked halfway down the hall. He knew. The clause was simple, buried in the 2017 onboarding appendix. Darren had insisted on it back then, said Solvantix required a specific name, not a position, for their compliance liaison. It wasn't standard, but it wasn't challenged either. No one cared, until now. Now that clause read like a grenade pin. The NDA is non-transferable. Termination or reassignment of the named signatory without written mutual consent shall result in immediate contract invalidation. That named signatory was Darren Voss, and that reassignment was Greg's golden child. Talia Mallory. Clearance denied. Experience non-existent. Approval 0. The CEO was seen pacing like a man on a war call, voice raised, hands waving. How the hell was this not flagged? Who signed off on this transition? You could practically hear the blood pressure monitor scream. Greg tried to crawl out of it. "We didn't fire Darren," he told Legal. "He's still technically employed. He's just taking a breather." But it was too late. The contract didn't care about intent. It cared about action, and the action was clear. CRM access revoked. Client matters rerouted. Public announcement naming Talia as the new liaison. And worst of all, no formal handoff. No clearance validation. No mutual consent from Solvantix. All Darren had to do was say one word on that phone call. Yes, that was the bullet. The rest was gravity. Talia, for her part, looked like someone had unplugged her from the sun. She sat at her desk with tears welling in her eyes, scrolling through her inbox like maybe this was a prank and Greg would pop out with balloons. But the only thing that popped was reality. Meanwhile, Darren was home. Sitting on the porch with our dog, drinking gas station coffee like it was wine, I brought him the printout of the termination letter. We still get everything routed to our backup email for just this kind of reason. He read it. Didn't blink. They found the clause, I said. Of course they did, he replied, calm as fog. And Greg? He shrugged. Greg's not built for consequence. He didn't gloat. Didn't say I told you so. Didn't even smile. He just nodded once, took another sip, and opened a fresh notepad on his lap. Title at the top, Vendor Entity Framework, Draft. Because while they were running around trying to duct tape a $245 million hole, Darren was already 10 steps ahead, building the thing they never imagined he'd own without them. And Greg? He was learning the first rule of real corporate warfare. If you remove the person holding the door open, don't be surprised when it slams shut, with your reputation inside. The offer came in quiet, like most serious things do. No red tape, no 30-slide deck, just an email with a calendar invite and a subject line that read, Continuity of Service Discussion. Darren knew who it was from before he even opened it. Solvantix didn't waste time, and they sure as hell didn't suffer fools. The moment that NDA snapped, they'd already started their contingency plans. The VP, a man named Carl DeWitt, career Navy, Harvard MBA, sharp as barbed wire, opened the video call with one question. Do you want to keep working with us, Mr. Voss? Darren didn't blink. Yes. Good, Carl replied, because we're prepared to move the entire contract under a new vendor, if you're ready to own that. That was it. No tests, no resume reviews, just the quiet gravity of someone who'd already checked your integrity 6 years ago and found it solid. Solvantix wasn't buying talent, they were buying continuity, trust, and Darren was the product now. He didn't celebrate. He didn't even tell me until the next morning when I caught him scribbling names on a legal pad at the kitchen counter, variations of LLCs, combinations of his last name, acronyms from old calls only he remembered. I need to talk to a corporate attorney, he said, like he was mentioning a dry cleaning pickup. By noon, he had a meeting with a lawyer named Morris, big firm downtown, no nonsense, straight shooter type who handled mergers and acquisitions like they were crossword puzzles. They met for coffee. By the end of the hour, Darren walked out with a game plan, 3 formation options, and a contract draft for a holding entity that could inherit the Solvantix agreement clean. The name he chose, Voss Advisory Group. Simple, precise, unmistakable. Meanwhile, back at the office, Talia was flailing. Greg had sent her on a redemption mission, some half-baked idea that she could charm Solvantix back into play with a few buzzwords and a smile. She showed up to the rescheduled call wearing a power blazer and pitching synergistic realignment strategies. Carl let her speak for exactly 4 minutes before ending the call with a line that went viral on our floor within the hour. Ms. Mallory, trust is not a hashtag. We'll be in touch. By the time legal forwarded the official severance terms to Solvantix, it was too late. The ink on their termination letter was barely dry, and Carl had already signed a letter of intent with Darren's new LLC, the same scope, the same budget, the same timeline, just not the same fools at the wheel. Greg tried to save face again, this time calling an all-hands to remind everyone that leadership is a journey, not a destination. He actually said that while standing under the framed photo of Darren at the last Solvantix site visit. The irony almost killed me. Talia, red-eyed and brittle, wandered the halls like a ghost in heels. She stopped by my desk once, asked if I knew how to translate legacy protocols into an agile framework. I just blinked. She was trying to Google her way out of a missile contract. It was like watching someone try to fix a jet engine with a Pinterest board. Darren, meanwhile, never raised his voice, never posted a thing. He just moved. Papers filed, contracts drafted, bank account opened, entity verified. And when the moment came to sign the new vendor agreement, he used the same pen Solvantix gifted him 3 years ago, engraved with his name and the words, "Trust is earned." He came home that night, hung his coat like it was any other Tuesday, and made dinner. I asked him how it went. "Fine," he said. "You get everything sorted?" He paused, poured himself a glass of wine. "Solvantix is on board. The firm's registered. Paperwork's moving." "And them?" I asked, meaning Greg and his nepotism pet project. Darren looked at me, calm, cool, surgical. "They still think this is about me being bitter." I raised a brow. "And it's not?" He shook his head. "It's about math and memory. You don't rip out the foundation and expect the walls to stand. They pulled the wrong thread. I'm just watching the sweater unravel." Then he opened his laptop, filed the last formation doc, and sent an email titled, "Voss Advisory Contract Execution Package." No exclamation points. No revenge quotes. Just business. Precise, deliberate, and entirely his. Greg always thought the building was his stage. He strutted those halls like a rooster in a button-down, shaking hands too hard, laughing just a bit too loud, throwing around phrases like vertical synergy and pipeline dominance as if saying them often enough made them true. But by Thursday morning, the applause was gone. The only sound trailing him was whispers. 2 clients. That's how it started. One from aerospace, the other medical logistics, both high stakes, both quiet power players like Solvantix. They didn't rage or threaten. They simply asked questions, first in email, then on calls. Can we confirm who is now overseeing our account? What is the new protocol for compliance escalation? We understand the daughter of a senior executive is involved. What are her qualifications? HR flagged the inquiries. Legal started squirming. The COO, who normally spent most mornings reading market reports with noise-canceling headphones, showed up unannounced to the 9OIG strategy huddle. That alone was a death omen. Meanwhile, Darren, he didn't make an entrance. He didn't need to. He showed up mid-morning wearing what he always did. No suit, no show, just clean lines and quiet presence. The only thing new was the leather folder under his arm. He wasn't back on the books. He didn't use his badge. But someone from legal let him in, and that was enough to set off alarms. I watched from the second-floor mezzanine as he sat down in conference room 6B with Meredith from compliance law. No smiles, no small talk, just paperwork and purpose. From across the glass, I could see Greg pacing like a man trying to remember if he locked the front door before the house caught fire. Talia was still hanging on by her nails. Greg had convinced her she just needed a win, one solid client call to restore credibility, so she scheduled a follow-up with the aerospace account. It was supposed to be routine, just a compliance clause confirmation and delivery schedule update. 4 minutes in, she blanked. Clause 5.3, the Origin Authentication Clause. One Darren had personally negotiated after months of back and forth. It had been updated twice. Talia couldn't find it. Misquoted the old version. Tried to Google it live while the client waited in silence. Then she panicked, mumbled something about verbal compliance buffers, a phrase that doesn't exist in federal contracting, and went quiet. Her screen froze. At least that's what she told everyone. What actually happened was a breakdown. I was near the call room. Heard her stifle a sob, then a chair scraping back. She left the building 10 minutes later, makeup streaked, blazer askew, her phone still pinging with follow-ups she'd never answer. Greg tried to patch the hole, but the ship was already tipping. The board met privately that afternoon. No full quorum, no big announcement, just a review of discretionary staffing authority logged in the internal calendar. That phrase right there, that's the first shovel of dirt when they're digging your political grave. He cornered me near the elevators, tried to flash that same tired smile. Any idea why Darren's here? I didn't blink. Might be easier to ask legal. He flinched, just barely. They didn't loop me in. Guess that's the point, I said. Back upstairs, I caught a glimpse of Darren leaving. Same pace, same folder, no drama, but there was something different in the air now. A shifting weight. People weren't whispering about him anymore. They were watching him, not like a threat. Like gravity. That night, Darren came home with a fresh copy of the vendor agreement. Final draft. Solvantix had countersigned. He poured himself a drink, then placed the folder on the dining table like an offering. He didn't brag, didn't smirk. "You went to the office," I said, briefly. Greg panicked. Not my problem. What did legal want? They wanted to understand why a compliance lock got missed by everyone but me. I nodded. "And what did you tell them?" He looked at me, eyes sharp but quiet. "I said you don't see the edge of the cliff when you're too busy building your daughter's throne." He toasted the silence, didn't even touch his drink, just sat there, calm, precise, watching the last domino lean. The memo hit inboxes at 6:03 a.m. sharp. No header image, no company branding, just plain text. Subject line, temporary reassignment of executive duties. Below it, 2 lines. Effective immediately, Gregory Mallory is suspended pending formal review of staffing decisions and contractual compliance breaches. No thank you. No, we appreciate his service. Just surgical language, the kind that ends careers quietly without the dignity of noise. By 8:01 a.m., Talia's name had vanished from the CRM access list. Her desk was stripped of clearance tags. A new internal ticket removed her admin permissions from every major account portal. The IT guy didn't even blink when he got the request. He just muttered, "Finally," and clicked confirm. Talia showed up at 9:12 late again. She swiped her badge and waited. Nothing. Tried again. Door stayed red. A junior assistant stepped out to deliver the news. "You're being reassigned to internal communications. Effective today." Her reaction wasn't loud, just hollow, like someone pulling a plug and watching the lights dim one room at a time. She didn't cry, didn't protest, just nodded, walked to her desk and started packing. But that wasn't the headline. That belonged to Voss Advisory Group. At 10:31 a.m., while the company scrambled to rewrite protocols and scrub Mallory from meeting invites, a press release quietly dropped. Voss Advisory secures 245mm continuity agreement with Solvantix Defense Systems. No puffery, no trash talk, just facts. Darren's new firm was live, fully licensed, fully staffed, fully contracted. The same contract Greg thought he could hijack through nepotism was now wrapped in new paper, with Darren's signature at the top and Greg's legacy nowhere to be seen. The link circulated faster than wildfire. First among the interns, then the compliance team. Then C-suite assistants forwarding it FYI to their execs with emojis they'd never dare use in formal meetings. People read it, whispered, and glanced around like they were checking to see who else knew what just happened. And quietly, very quietly, some of them began to reach out. Old colleagues, past collaborators, sharp operators who'd spent years under Greg's thumb, who recognized the value of competence over charisma. Darren got 3 emails before noon, all discreet, all with the same tone. "If you're hiring, I'd like to talk." He didn't respond right away. He wasn't rushing anything, because that's the thing no one ever understood about Darren. He doesn't strike fast. He prepares. He waits. And when he moves like gravity. I watched him that afternoon in the living room, laptop open, one call after another, every sentence calm, every detail exact. No bluster, no gloating, just structure being laid, piece by piece. Around 3 p.m., a second internal memo leaked. This one from the board. Subject, NDA compliance protocol reform. New policy. All future high-clearance NDAs must name a position, not an individual. The irony was almost poetic. They rewrote the rules, but only after Darren had walked through the loophole with the entire Solvantix contract in his pocket. Too late. That clause, that one clause, had been his escape hatch, his battering ram, his legacy encoded in legal language nobody else had thought to question. And now that it had done its job, they were scrambling to seal the vault door after the treasure had already been moved out of the building. That night, we didn't talk about it. We didn't have to. Darren made pasta. We listened to the radio. I watched him send one final email before closing his laptop for the night. Subject line, onboarding packet, Voss Advisory Group. He leaned back, took a sip of wine, and looked at me like a man who'd finally finished cleaning a wound. "This isn't revenge," he said quietly. "I know. It's correction." I nodded. "Feels like justice." He shook his head once. "Feels like balance." And in that moment, I realized he hadn't burned the bridge. He'd dismantled it. beam by beam, clause by clause, until the other side collapsed under its own weight. Greg was terminated on a Tuesday. No parade, no exit lunch, not even a recycled HR memo. Just a cold calendar removal and an access revoke order that hit at 6:01 a.m. sharp. Security didn't escort him. They didn't have to. He came in, saw the blank badge reader, and understood. He stood in the lobby for 5 minutes, blinking, phone in hand, waiting for someone to call it a mistake. No one did. By 6:07, he was gone, a ghost in a tailored suit. Talia didn't last the week. She sent a resignation email that read more like a breakup note. Thank you for the opportunity. Grateful for the growth. Pursuing new avenues. No mention of her father. No mention of Darren. Just a few sentences trying to rewrite history as politely as possible before the door closed behind her. The CEO released a statement 2 hours later. PR safe, half-hearted, soaked in corporate neutering. We remain committed to respecting our partners' preferences and ensuring future alignment through improved oversight and compliance standards. No ownership, no apology, just vague respect for preferences, as if the collapse of a $245 million defense deal was someone's mood swing. Meanwhile, 3 blocks away, in a clean glass building with no name on the door yet, Darren stepped into his new office. No fanfare, no press, just him. Voss Advisory Group's suite was quiet, just the hum of freshly wired power, the faint buzz of routers coming online, and a single welcome kit from Solvantix on the desk, sealed folder, branded pen, contract copy inside. He didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, he walked over to the far wall, pulled something from his bag, a thin wood frame. Inside it, the original NDA, the one with the signature, the clause, the pivot point of the entire war. He'd kept it in pristine condition, never folded, never stained. Below it, in clean black letters engraved on a steel plate, you don't replace a relationship with a resume. He mounted it above the door. The screws went in smooth. No ceremony, just closure. Then he sat down at his desk, opened his laptop, and began reviewing candidate profiles from the same people who used to sit 2 floors above him, pretending he didn't matter. No grudges, just filters, clearance ready, contract literacy, field tested. He never once mentioned Greg's name, didn't even smirk when the board chair of his old firm sent a message later that month asking if there might be strategic opportunities for collaboration. He replied with a single sentence. We're currently prioritizing partners with operational discipline and long-term vision. No shade, no fire, just boundaries, firm and final. I stopped by the office that Friday, brought him coffee, watched him flip through contracts like sheet music, calm, focused, completely at peace. You ever think about what would have happened if they hadn't pushed you out? I asked. He paused, then nodded. Yeah, I'd still be holding everything together while someone else took the credit. And now? He smiled, just barely. Now I hold the pen. And with that, he opened the Solvantix kit. No applause, no vengeance, just ink, precision, and the quiet final sound of a door clicking shut.